Peace to my God, and welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio, place where knowledge is born. This is your host, knowledgebornallah. We are here for one of my favorite segments. This is a long-awaited, highly anticipated sit-down with one of my heroes that are here on this side with the backdrop of one of our greatest heroes in the background, one of our patron saints of insurrection, of African correctness, and also an African example. Two shiny bald heads to glow from one generation to the next. You understand? So it's my esteemed honor and privilege at this time to represent the others. My bigger brother and comrade, one who guides me and keeps me on that straight and narrow path towards African revolution. Chairman, so many titles, you understand what I'm saying? So we're going to get into them and have an understanding of what they are, but a chief organizer, an organizer's organizer, one who continues to bring African people together across generations, from the ancestors to our youth. So my brother and warrior comrade, Thutmose Sankara.
Peace and power, African family. Thank you for bringing me on, bro. And salute to the Do the Knowledge family and your consistency in making my comrade brothers work as fruitful and consistent as it is. How many shows now?
2,500.
2,500.
And count.
Keep doing the work, bro. Appreciate you.
Love it. So we're here today, man, to chop it up a little bit. We see you move, but we don't really know the story. And through Knowledge Radio, we focus on the story behind the story. We see the man, like we see the man here, but many people who walk with Doc or claim they walk with Doc ain't know his story. So we're going to get into your story a little bit today, and I wanted to deal with it from a perspective of organizing a new African proper propaganda campaign. So from your roots in time as an organizer, for those organizers who are looking to get into this work, what would you say is a few things that stick out as some of your greatest challenges as an organizer of African people?
Well, number one, I think in the beginning, just committing one to consistent study and work. I think that thing, because that's what you come across, right? People who think they know what they're talking about, but they really don't. And they'll listen to people who really know what they're talking about, and you'll see their eyes gloss over, and they'll see that light of knowledge and wisdom that comes from someone else, but they won't commit themselves to that study consistently. And so for me, not only for myself, but for that I see for others throughout the movement, that consistency, you ain't gonna get it off YouTube. We don't understand the thought process that goes through when you read those words on a page. It allows your own imagination to create those images and not the images that are given to you by someone else. And so that our own African mind is able to work with that. That's number one. Number two, you say like from an organ, so that's from a personal level. Organizationally, infiltration and incorrect thinking, which leads to disunity. So kind of disunity, but disunity is broad. Infiltration of organizations by those who sometimes unpurposefully and then a lot of times purposefully introduce statements, demonstrations, things that bring about disunity in a collective of people that have gathered themselves for a particular purpose. I've seen it in, so many situations. I've had it happen personally, with people around me, and we've seen in history that's led to the death of not only individuals in the revolutionary struggle, but whole movements themselves based upon that FBI and other intelligence agencies' infiltration of not only diaspora within the United States, but also continental revolutionary organizations. So infiltration of organizations. Another thing I think is on an operational level, as revolutionaries, as you mentioned before, like propaganda, not finding the correct means of strategic struggle in a specific time period. While you and I, Sundiata earlier, I had mentioned Dr. King and people not understanding that nonviolent struggle is a part of a revolutionary struggle because every revolutionary struggle goes through that phase. And we're reading the history, but I think that white supremacy in the United States has us so shook that although we understand where we are, we're not walking those steps scientifically the way that we should. Like, take for instance, last year's and the big conflagration of demonstration across the nation. What cogent organization came out of those struggles that is consisting of a African-centered consciousness and that is continuing to this day, that we can say was built out of that energy that was built up out of African people. So these strategic errors, that's what I'm saying, like that because when you try to explain them, because the elders always know the answer, right? They like, hey, well, we need to do this and organize this while it's going on, blah, blah, blah. And then you get, a certain percentage, maybe a few or whatever of the people to be involved in struggle, but that is in the recruitment of people into the struggle. Right. Becomes, I think that is the one consistent generational frustration of the revolutionary, converting the unconscious to conscious, as Brother Kwame Ture says, and that struggle, and like I said, the strategies. I just think that we haven't employed the proper ones. Think about them. It was house to house, street to street, block to block, asking people, knocking on the door. Right. So and so that recruitment phase, that infiltration that occurs within it, and just that study to come to the proper understanding of who we are as an African people, and to give that God conscious, that striking of consciousness that occurs within the African when that melanin is activated through that knowledge, that ancestral wisdom.
All right. So that leads me to my next question, like perfectly. You're perfect. Segue guy already. Organizing in regards to freeing political prisoners. I want to ask in specific, we all shared space with him together. What was it like for you? And, kind of give a little of the backstory working to free Baba Sekou Denga and so many others.
Baba Sekou, you just, Sekou big. You just have to understand, right? So you have the Panther 21 situation, right? The pigs vamp. And so to catch everybody, and they come to get Sekou. Sekou say, when they knocked on the door, he cocked the M1 behind there and said, who is it? He says, the police say, hold on, give me a minute, if put my clothes on. He got down, went down the pipe out the back compartment, right? When they looked up again, Sekou was in Cuba. So that would be a victorious story, right? But that ain't where it is. He went from Cuba to Algeria, where he worked in the international office of the Black Panther Party. They're training African revolutionaries on the continent in these insurgency tactics and things and stuff that he had learned from Cuban and other revolutionary formations that he went to. I mean, this guy, his all the way back, another pivotal figure. You talk about Sekou Odinga. If you study another figure from revolutionary history called Lumumba Shakur, the big brother of Zaid Shakur, who was killed in the shootout on New Jersey Turnpike when Assata was shot, and Sunyata went to prison. But so Sekou goes to Algeria. He's training revolutionaries in Africa. And then he hears that Auntie Assada's captured and she's in the hospital. Tulu over the line from America. He on Connie like, okay, I'll be back. He comes back into the country as a wanted man. And he and Matulu, with other comrades, carry out the liberation of Auntie Assada. So that is the type of figure so he goes from being the domestic revolutionary and fugitive to international, then back to domestic. So learning, but the greatest influence of just working with him was from the origin, his queen. Because that's my partner. Everybody be like, when they come, right? Everybody run to Sekou, and I'm running to her because like we work together to liberate him. Me, I participated in campaigns, Jericho movement, hosted events in his honor, and one of my first political prisoner hip hop concerts. I had the Sekou and all of them up there, him and Imam Jamil and Jalil Mutakim and all of them, and then Jalil Mutakim, there's another one, but with Sister Dequee, that I saw that sister's strength bring that man out. It was one of the most, I think, incredible things. I mean, the strategic way that it happened. He wasn't supposed to come home because the feds had him first. They turned him over to the state. State gave him time and did all the time. Then the feds tried to come back, but you couldn't. So they had to let him go. So even strategically how he came home, legal-wise, was miraculous. But the energy of that sister, I mean, I still have lives and stuff. Right? Shout out to Brother Kalanji. We would host things and bring, I had an all-female political prisoner panel in 2016, 15, right before he came home too, where Mama DeQuee, Pam Africa, Terry Thompson, Baba Matulu's lawyer, Virginia Conway, ex-Black Panther sister, and so like knowing and being a part of the liberation campaign and then seeing the political prisoner come home is like, I think it's kind of different for me for being someone who's kind of on a smaller scale in that position, having been attacked by the feds and come home too, and then seeing him and then that prisoner to prisoner bond developing through that revolutionary struggle. It's different. You can be revolutionary, you can be on the street, you can be an organization, there's that bond. Then there's the bond between those who've been behind enemy lines. And so with Sekou and I just was like straight to the work. Hey man, you know about Veronza? Yeah, I was in with Veronza. What's going on with him? Hey, look, I'm gonna put you on the line. He's supposed to call today. Boom, straight, me and Sekou, straight into the work. As soon as he came home, just like that. And he ain't stopped. I was just in New York in July at the National African Arts Festival in Brooklyn. Me and him at the Political Prisoners Day working together. Me, him, Sister Yasa Zinga. Shout out to the comrade Sistrin, right? At the table. Oh my God, bruh, this is the dream of like a kid. It's actually better than I would imagine that like it would be so much strife and turmoil because you read all the stories of what happened before, you think that, and I go through things, you know what I mean? But overall, it's so liberating mentally to know that you participated in this little small aspect of history that has to do with these great people that we all have admired and give energy and love and honor to and represent for all time the liberation struggle of African people. Yeah, shout out to brother Sekou. He still is like his rhythm, like you said, I'm obsessed. Man, Sekou call that phone 12:30 at night, man. There's some people, they have that energy that will not let them stop struggling until they take their last breath, or until they can't do it anymore. And I find that consistently in those who have been at that front of struggle like that. Like I said, Baba Jalil Mutakim just came home, organized the whole Spirit of Mandela Tribunal. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to him. Conrad Eddie Conway, uh, uh, the move comrades who come home, and each one of them, when one came home, they turned around and struggled to get the next one, and the next one come, they turned around and struggled to get the next one. So all of them was home, except Mumia. And we're still struggling to get Mumia home. So the work of political prisoners is one of the only things you can do as an organizer in the United States that actually connects you to being a part of a nation. Think about it, right? We could say that we're some government in exile or something. We can make that up, make some offices or something, right? That's easy, right? But what action could you carry out? You could form yourself, right? But what actual actions could you carry out that represents you being a nation? You say that flag is what you stand under? And the ones who are in that prison, that you're coming to get them with arms? Then you're a nation. The rest of it is just talking. Or survival. Survival. You gotta eat. You gotta have somewhere to live. Children gotta have some education. You know what I mean? So that's just survival. It doesn't make you a nation. Right? Armed confrontation under a flag, by definition of the UN, makes you a nation. When you declare that and say, we are the new African nation, those are our comrades, they're prisoners of war, you're holding them, and we're at war with you. Fighting for political prisoners is one of the only things you can do that actually makes you stand up under the banner of an actionable nation.
Before I go to my next question, I gotta ask, how did you hook up with Bob Mukasa?
In those early days when I came to Atlanta, I would see him around at events, but something happened in like 2002, 3. He was assaulted by the Clark Atlanta police. The AU said, I believe it was at Morehouse. Actually, it was Morehouse. Yeah, it was Morehouse. The campus police, right? And so I was they like, oh man, they just like, all this was stretched, torn. You know what I mean? So we organized ourselves, and we had some direct action. And so after that, we began to have personal consultations. And at that point, I think that because there was during the time, of course, I was in the new Black Panther Party. I think that he was just, it was like a feeling out period, during that time. And then after I left the party and joined Wadu in 2004, then we started working together every day. It was like that. And that worked like, okay. Got to work with Dr. College for 3 months. He made me his Minister of Education. Dealing with, and through him, Cynthia McKinney, a lot of the figures through Akbar Muhammad, a lot of figures through the revolutionary struggle. But when I came to Wadu, then meet the Pan-African elders, that was a whole other level. That's when me and I got tight with Mukasa. There's Del Jones, there's James Smalls, there's Leonard Jeffries. Internationally, there's Dudley Thompson. Lombe Bras, one of the greatest ever. Now we international. But the experience with the Cubans before coming back to Atlanta really kind of, it was like just coming back. Now the education is being added to the action that I had the opportunity to participate in before, because I didn't know what the hell I didn't know. You know what I mean? It's just like some stuff you think about, like, yeah, I can you brag about it later on. But when you was going through it, you ain't know what the hell was going on. It's just something that happened, and you just was adventurous enough to participate in it. And then after it was over, and you were scared all the way through it. And then later on, you could say, yeah, out there. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You shake your knees was shaking all the way. But the decision to do it was what was important, because it could have been just an adventure or one-time thing, but to follow it up now later on to connect with the Pan-African elders, now I understand, okay, that wasn't just an adventure or something. I was following up in the tradition of these revolutionaries. First of all, I'm working with Fidel and these guys. Now I'm sitting over here at the table, like Imam Big Prof is at my house, sitting here eating with me and my wife and my children. And he was talking to me about when he was with Patrice, right? So at a certain point, it becomes necessary to record these things and have some type of compendium where no matter what happens, the next generation has access to this information. And so that was one of the main things that I needed to do in regards to, like I said, the political prisoners being that one portfolio, and it being that very important portfolio that one do actionable, through planned action can actually make you a nation, but still being only one portfolio and the rest of these having to be organized, repatriation and dual citizenship, business connections to the continent, organizing the diaspora and the other far-flung African communities, the Garifunas in Belize and the Jamaican Maroons and the Palinkins in Brazil. All of this is covered under the Office of the African Union's Chair of the Diaspora. So I had to think of a way to be able to disperse information on all these portfolios in this office through one vein, through one stream. And I had spent this time building a platform based upon that, through events, through the position in WRFG 89.3 as basically political prisoner or reporter, but that needed to be expanded upon. And so it was necessary for a few reasons. Number one, something was inside of me, because the political prisoner aspect, I realized because of my personal experience with it, was something that I leaned on more heavily than the other portfolios that I was responsible for. So I had to, and it took, and the elders, they don't mind. James Smiles, James, by Mukasa, like I said, once again, the benevolent one. Brother Africa, I'm gonna need you to get things together. We're gonna have to start traveling and see, getting these different places where these Africans at, man. Propaganda, and put it in place and liberate these African territories. James Small is different. What's wrong with you? See, what happened is you keep talking about jail, and then you ain't never think about this. How this is hard. If you fighting a war and you got an objective and you go into it and your left flank get caught, right? But the main interior of the army keep moving forward to the objective. Do you stop going to the objective because the left flank got cut off? No. That's war. That's battle. So that was a major part of why I, within myself had to. But at the same time, I wanted to do it right. I wanted to do it proper. And that took me just battening down the hatches and mostly seeing in what arenas I would apply my energy, because basically I'm transitioning out of the radio into the video phase of media.
So what's some of the things that we can look for since we're right there in
Mhm.
store with Keep in Line News? Like what are some of the goals, aims, objections, the missions? Like what are some of the things people can look forward to? And kind of give us a little bit of back because you had a couple of shows already.
Yeah. So what I had been wanting to do was basically set the tone, and the tone for Al-Qibalan News is my elder Dale Jones. His name was the war correspondent, and so when I was doing radio early, just doing spot shows, just like recording things, so early then, this 2006, 2007. He said, you like the combat reporter, because you been to Cuba, you went over there to Angola with him, and you tell us, you need to go back and tell you. He was the one who influenced me to start writing the book too, Al-Qibalan Redemption. And so for me, it was just I needed, how there's always something inside of you. You have to get straight and within your own mind and spirit before you can carry out the actions. And so Qibalan News was something that I needed to do in order to get things straight in my mind, where I could say to myself, okay, Tud, you got the one place where no matter what happens, all of this information that's come from, all this stuff you remember that you can't forget, that you be spotting on the top of your head, just have this place where you can just dump all of this stuff at, and just store it all there, and just record every day, get the different topics out, even down here where we at, books in the closet, books and stuff everywhere. So just start working, just put it down. Not only in that form, start producing the books, finish the Al-Qibalan Redemption, the novel. Go into the space where the political ideology that's been laid forth already through Garvey and Nkrumah and Cabral and everybody, that you're just taking and just add the modern technological tools that we have now to that philosophy. Go into your little elders phase. You ain't a spring chicken no more. But this news organ will give me the opportunity to, as it grows into this professionally polished, African-centered news show based upon conflict of African people in the diaspora and in the continent. Give you the combat news, the combat reporter, Brother Thutmose Sankara here on Al-Qibalan News, bringing you the news from such and such and such and such place where African people are struggling. And so that is in conjunction with that office of the chair of the African Union. And so I can fulfill those duties all through that one station, including the propaganda, including the news and information, and then also providing through behind the scenes investigative reporting. Soon I'll be pushing the fund for the establishment of Al-Qibalan News, because in order to be a truly professionally polished, it's like being the African-centered Al Jazeera. It's Brother Thutmose on location in West Papua New Guinea. You know what I'm talking about? Like that. Professional, polished, secured, diplomatic status through the office in all these places, bringing this information. That's Al-Qibalan News.
Okay. So I wanted to back up because I thought you would think that I forgot, but I didn't.
I know you.
I wanted to get to your stations, your positions.
Okay.
Not necessarily your duties and responsibilities, because we're not getting into that, but
Right.
like the mind frame, the backstory, and then like kind of walk us through how you felt receiving the particular post position. You see what I'm saying? Things like that.
So, well, that kind of goes back because in college, I'll say, if we're going to just go back that far, there's the tradition of being born as a Seminole in Florida under my people, and that training as a young man and being sent into the world. But, organizationally, among the masses of African people in the United States, Black Student Union in college, at Knoxville College, the vice president, sister was president, and then the new Black Panther Party, and that was something I chased because I had always chased Malcolm's legacy, and I saw Dr. Collard as being the closest thing to it, and so when I found him, it was just like you chase something all your life and it's taken away from you. So I was there with him, and then 3 months later he was gone. And so, but being consistent in the organization, rising up through the ranks, being the chair of Atlanta's office for 2 years, and all of imagine being the chair of the new Black Panther Party in the city where Dr. Collard died. All was some strange stuff, man. People, but Sister Cynthia McKinney, Steve Coakley, these there's another sister from WRFG, man, I can't think of her name right now, but she was real solid too. She was real tight with Dr. Collard, and the lawyer comrade out of New York, from the United African Movement. Used to have Dr. Collard up there all the time. The lawyer brother,
the warrior lawyer,
yeah.
Automatic.
Yes. These comrades were very pivotal at that time because it was just a lot of confusion. I didn't know what was going on. Yusuf Shabazz and Savannah. So that was kind of my first introduction into just like, the storm, and it really got to a point where it's like, bro, walk around out here in the open with this gun and know I got this felony on me is not gonna get me where I want to get to. It made me feel good because I like daring the cracker and stuff, but just gotta be a little smarter, bro. So that transition handed over to the sister, made sister first chair. So yeah, I know I mean sister first chair at the time, first time in the Black Panther Party. So Nisa Shabazz, 2004. And moved into that position in the African Union, which at that time was it was not WADU, it was something else. It was a committee within the Community Institutions and Diaspora Organization, CEDO, of the African Union. Then in 2004, after the meeting of intellectuals in Senegal, Inambe Brough worked with the African Union to draft representation for the 2 seats in Parliament that were for African people outside of the continent. And that is what WADU was born out of. And so that work and being introduced to that on that intellectual level, not only kind of just made me mature and get out of that rah militant phase, but it really birthed that organizing mind that it has become more of a consistent aspect of my consciousness than, that militancy, even though I'm still that, right? Just to organize it. If you can't be that if you can't organize it. You got to put the cop for the horse, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it just makes sense. So, but working in that, going through the ranks of the new Black Panther Party, becoming chair, going through the ranks of Wadu, from being political commissioner to secretary general, and now chair of the region. Also in WRG, that position was coming into the tradition of revolutionary sister, Sister Courage, Mama El Ghani, who transitioned during the time I was in the feds. And when I came home, my comrade sister, Sharice Nicole, was holding down the post, her and Buddy Folks, and then I slid in with them. And then we just rolled from there. Sharice Nicole ended up going to another platform within WRG, and me and Buddy Folks. Then I brought in the comrade Quay Cool, and then we just rolled from there. So that was the establishment of that media personality of Thutmose Sankara, the combat reporter, African Family State Vigilant, through WRFG. That, but before then, had already been Thutmose, the African, the new Black Panther Party chairman, and then the African Union at that time, political commissioner and secretary general. And then came the prison sentence, and then after that, the radio work, right? And then the activism in political prison, which created, so there's the radio journalist Thutmose Sankara. Then there's the political prisoner activist Thutmose Sankara, who's done stuff with Malcolm X Grassroots over Tulu, done stuff with Imam Jamil, Veronza Bowers, Kamal Siddiqui, the MOVE organization, all of it, right? So balancing those organizing veins, it came to a point where the feeling of elation of doing it was overcome by a sense of wanting some feeling of completeness to it. And so with the political prisoners thing, it was the encapsulation of the Spirit of Mandela Tribunal this year, where after we charged the United States with genocide, and the UN concurred with us over the imprisonment of political prisoners and mass incarceration of poor and oppressed people in general, and the genocide of African people by police in the United States. Now it's time to bring all those political prisoners from the African liberation struggle cases together into a mass action struggle, a mass class action struggle on the human rights level, and a mass action struggle on the revolutionary level. If New Africa is going to take that step that it needs to take as a revolutionary community. So being in that position to see that from those perspectives, being with Dr. Khaled, having a chance to work with Dr. Jeffries, being in Ethiopia, sitting at the African Union table, taking private flights with the Zimbabweans, with the military and all this stuff, working with the Cubans and training with them, traveling with them to Angola. These things, you would think like, oh man, I want to do all of that. But just remember, the feds are watching, and there's some prison come with that too. All that fun stuff, there's some prison in there too. So you got to take the good with the bad. So I've been blessed to have comrades. Shout out to Chokwe Lumumba, Sister Terry Thompson, Imhotep Kibalan, Mawuli Davis, African legal staffs who have brought liberation when I was under attack of the enemy, and it was only through that very focused work that a comrade was able to come back home. And so that all of those that roller coaster and and those titles, like at this point in my life, I gotta make some sense of that and find a way for all of those things to crystallize.
Last question.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel, or just to think about this for a second? And as I drop this, I know your face gonna turn into something. How did it feel to go from reading George Jackson, Comrade George, to being George Jackson and not die?
Ooh. Yeah, cause if you know how close. But I gotta say this, George. What George meant physically inside, I represent organizationally outside. And so that's the feeling is he got this gonna sound crazy to you. He got the easy route. You know, the guilt. So like for me, the to when just like I just lost Haroon, I just lost Malik Killiam for when you're organizing and you have these responsibilities, it becomes a thing where the responsibilities overcome the uh, the pain and struggle that you have to go through. And if somebody get out of it quickly, right, then they got away. They did what they had to do and go on. It's your ass that's left back here to keep to carry it over and over and over and over. So for me, it's like, man, please. The Mukasa put it the best way. He say, African, when you wake up in the morning and you know you still there and you got to get out here among these people and struggle, then some people may feel like that because they know they don't want to do the job. That it is a bad day, but it's always a good day for us because we know that we got another chance to bring about that victory. And it always is there in that next day. And George did something that George was, it's like, when I think of George, I think of, I don't know, this might sound crazy, but when I think of George, I think of Fidel. Well, I think of the time with Fidel, right? And not like Fidel was actually there, but like the time of the Cubans. Because George and the Black Panther Party inspired the Cubans anyway. The Cubans were always inspired by us because they wanted to know how we could be so strong and brave in the midst of the enemy that they couldn't even overcome outside of it, right? How does Carlos hijack the airplane and landed in Cuba, right? And what was the tactical way that he did it? Africans in the United States have to understand that we've come from a strong warrior tradition, and it's only in these last couple of decades that we have lost that consistent warrior tradition, and the mere fact that we've lost control of the raising of our young men has a large thing to do with it. But also a large thing to do with it is the fact that organizationally, as I always said, we try to do things that gonna bring us grandiose ideas or some monetary gain. We'll link our consciousness to the vending and all that, and we just need to concentrate on the children. Whatever the positive is, it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken adults.